Coach Jason Capson here. Coach Jason Capson here again, and the Prague Pro has certainly become the most exciting professional bodybuilding show of the year, really. I mean, if you think about it, everything that's going on would not be going on if it wasn't for Chris Bumstead. I mean, the Prague Pro, let's be honest, is a show that happens after the Olympia. Most people are shutting it down by that point. True hardcore fans, take in the Romania Pro, the Prague Pro, the Spain Pro. There's some shows, and they're important shows because the guys can get some early qualification, qualify for the Olympia early for next year. The Prague Pro was a show that was going to happen, and then along came Chris Bumstead. And, Martin Fitzwater, he announced that he was going to do the Prague Pro, and that was fine. And there was a little bit of buzz about it. But when Chris Bumstead decided that he was going to do the Prague Pro, it literally exploded. And if there's any doubt in anyone's mind at this point that Chris Bumstead isn't the most popular bodybuilder on the face of this planet, the Prague Pro is really the answer to that question. Now, first, I just want to talk a little bit about this whole Urs versus Ramon versus Chris Bumstead at the Prague Pro. First of all, it's not happening. It's not going to happen. They're not going to compete on the stage in open bodybuilding, and even if they did, it would be exciting. The fans would love it. That'd be all great. But let's be real about this. Chris would destroy Urs and Ramon again in open bodybuilding the same way that he does in classic physique. Chris is a better bodybuilder than both of them. And it's interesting to watch all the hoopla. And are we going to compete? Are we not going to compete? And Nick's Strength and Power did make a mistake yesterday talking about how Urs is the special guest, but we're not really sure if he's a special guest in the show or if he's going to have a booth. It actually says right in the announcement for Urs, special guest Urs, the Miracle Bear Kalisinski. It says it right there. Meet him at Miracle Wear booth. He's going to be at the booth. He's not going to be on the stage. Could he still get in? Probably not. Nick was right that they do generally have a deadline, a cutoff for competitors, and that's what they do their marketing and promotion and all that stuff with what they've got. And yes, would Urs get a special invite if he decided to compete in open? Probably, but does anyone want to really see that? Not really. People want to see Chris Bumstead up against open men's bodybuilder. They don't want to see Chris up against Urs and Ramon again. They've seen that story over and over and over, and the story will always end the same, with Chris winning. So now we want to see how Chris is going to do up against real open men's bodybuilders. And I think Urs and Ramon are, they're playing the game a little bit. They're getting some hype here, and it's all cool and fun. But I think they know, in their hearts of hearts, they know that they don't belong in open bodybuilding. And if they went in open bodybuilding, they would get crushed. And they get crushed by Chris again. So nobody wants to see that. The bodybuilding fans like myself, we want to see Chris Bumstead up against open men's bodybuilding. And, it really is the best thing that ever happened to the Prague Pro is Chris Bumstead showed up. Let's just be honest. Ronnie's going to be there. Ronnie Coleman's going to be there. He is the GOAT in open men's bodybuilding. But, and people will go to see Ronnie. But people aren't going to see Ronnie. People are going to see Chris. Chris is the GOAT in classic and probably at this point the GOAT in bodybuilding. Yes, Arnold probably still is overall when you look at the popularity, but the current popularity, there's no one more popular than Chris Bumstead, and he may go down as the most popular bodybuilder regardless of class. He might go down as the most popular bodybuilder in the history of bodybuilding. And, leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Do you think Chris Bumstead is the most popular bodybuilder on the planet? And if not, who do you have as the most popular bodybuilder on the planet right now? Is it Chris Bumstead? Is it Ronnie Coleman? Is it Arnold Schwarzenegger? Who do you have as the most popular bodybuilder right now and the most popular bodybuilder of all time? Now, let's jump into the actual show itself. And again, I'm going to try not to demolish. You probably all already seen this competitor list. I'll try not to demolish the names, so forgive me again if I get them messed up. But you've got Sam Ashore, Roman Begas, you got Pavel Baran, you got Andrea Bolzoni, Chris Bumstead, Mike Selza, Sean Clarita, Martin Fitzwater, Matthias Holweck, you've got Mike Huluzzi, Mark Joyce, Simon Latta, Harry Lehner, Horse MD, Daniel that one always gets me, Penyozelek, Andrea Presti, Jack Richardson, Jan Turek, Christian Wolski, and Peter Zemjak. I'm working on the names, guys. Please forgive me. But there's some good competitors in there. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but this is open men's bodybuilding. And the criteria for open men's bodybuilding needs to be different than it is for classic physique. Greg Doucette touched on this a little bit yesterday as well. Size does matter. Size matters. It should matter in open men's bodybuilding. Now, not size over everything. I think, again, you're looking for the combination of size, symmetry, proportions, conditioning, definition, all of that stuff. It all matters. And the person who brings the best combination of it all should win the show in open men's bodybuilding. And I think, again, if you go back to the Mr. Olympia, they got it right. They got it right this year. The guy that had the best combination of it all, size, definition, symmetry, conditioning, they got it right. He actually won the show. Samson Dauda is the Mr. Olympia Open champion for good reason. And I think he did enough to win the show this year, and I don't think there's any more debate on that. Again, I had Hottie winning, but again, when I look back, I'm perfectly man enough to admit when I'm wrong. I do have Samson. I'm perfectly fine with Samson being the Open Men's Mr. Olympia champion. Now, when we get into the Prague Pro and you look at these competitors that are here, it's going to be interesting. You know, a lot of people, the talk about Chris Bumstead winning the show. I think, honestly, I don't think it would be a good thing for open men's bodybuilding if Chris wins the show, especially if he comes in the same size, the same shape, the same conditioning as he was when he won the Mr. Olympia for the 6th time in classic physique. I think it would be a bad precedent that they would be setting if Chris Bumstead wins this show. Now, again, if he comes in the best shape, in the best condition, with the size, with everything, and Martin Fitzwater is off a little bit, if Horse MD is still off from the Romania show, if Andrea Presti shows up in bad shape, there's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of people that have to show up poorly in bad condition for Chris Bumstead to win this show, in fairness for open men's bodybuilding. Now, I just saw someone just posted their top 5 or their top 4 pick, and they had Martin Fitzwater winning the show. They had Andrea Presti in 2nd place. And Andrea Presti, I don't know, people, if you haven't heard of him, this guy's a beast. He's a gigantic bodybuilder. Now, he doesn't have the classic lines. He doesn't have the beautiful symmetry that, guys like Chris Bumstead and even Horse MD would bring to the table. But Andrea Presti is a force to be reckoned with, and he could finish 2nd place. He could win the whole show. This is the thing about men's open bodybuilding. When you look at the Olympia this year, everybody showed up in condition. Everybody showed up in shape. It was really a great show. And I think the Prague Pro just, the level went up. Let's be honest. I mean, there's a lot of eyes on this show at this point. So I think the guys are going to show up in the best shape of their lives, and rightfully so. This isn't going to be a walk in the park. So I still do think, if I'm going to give my predictions, here's my predictions first based on what I feel open men's bodybuilding should be. I've got Martin Fitzwater winning the show. I've got Horse MD in 2nd. I've got Andrea Presti in 3rd. I've got Chris Bumstead in 4th and Sean Clarita in 5th. Now, that's how, in my mind, open men's body, because open men's bodybuilder should beat a classic physique they should win it every time based on the open men's bodybuilding criteria. I don't think a classic physique should win open men's bodybuilding against other open men's bodybuilders who have the size, who have that shape. They're just gigantic human beings. Martin Fitzwater, it weighs the same as Chris Bumstead, but he's a lot shorter than Chris Bumstead, so he's much thicker, carries a lot more muscle mass on his body. Chris would have to gain at least 20 to 30 pounds to match that on stage. So in my opinion, if you go by the open men's bodybuilding criteria, you've got Martin in first place. You've got Andrea Presti or Horse MD in second, third. They could be switched in and out. You've got Chris Bumstead and you've got Sean Clarita. I don't think Sean Clarita should win open men's bodybuilding ever. No offense, but he's not ready for it yet. He again has to put on some more size. He's much smaller than these guys. Is he a fantastic bodybuilder? Absolutely. He's a two-time Mr. Olympia. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think he's a two-time Mr. Olympia. Anyways, I'll have to look it up. He's won the Mr. Olympia in the past in 212, so he definitely is a Mr. Olympia champion and definitely should be on that stage. But here's where my heart goes. Here's what I really think is going to happen, and I don't think that anybody can overlook the politics of bodybuilding. I don't think anybody can overlook the fact that Chris Bumstead is one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time. I think Martin Fitzwater is going to finish first if he comes in shape. Now, I'm watching his latest updates, and I'm not sure what everyone is looking at, but I don't think he certainly doesn't look ready to me yet. I think he's still holding a lot of water. I think his conditioning is still very off. I think he's got to drop at least another 5 or 6 pounds of water before he's in the best shape of his life, before he's in the shape that he was at the Mr. Olympia. Now, he's telling everybody that he's going to be in the best shape of his life. That's going to be the best package he has ever brought to the stage. I hope it's true. It doesn't look like that to me right now, but we'll see what happens. But I've got Martin Fitzwater winning the show. I've got Chris Bumstead in second place just because I love me some Chris Bumstead. He's got one of the greatest physiques of all time, and I think his body is actually the epitome of all bodybuilding. I wouldn't actually be sad if Chris Bumstead won the Prague show. I wouldn't be upset if he won the open Prague show if and only if Martin Fitzwater comes in off. He's holding water. He's not in good shape. If Horse MD can't get it together, then yeah, I wouldn't be upset if Chris won. If Chris comes in the best shape of his life, best conditioning he has, with that size and that beautiful symmetry, I wouldn't be sad. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Martin's going to pull it together. I think Martin's going to win. I think Chris is going to finish second. I think Horse MD, coming off the Romania Pro, the Romania show, I think was just maybe a warm-up to the Prague. I think he was just getting ready for the Prague Pro. Maybe he's going to Spain. I don't know. But he needs to show up sharper if he wants to place in the top 3 at this show. If he wants to place the top 5 at this show, he's got to show up in much better shape than he was at Romania. Now, he wasn't in terrible shape. He finished 4th. But I think if he wants to place in the top 3 or even the top 5 in the show, he's got to be much, much sharper than he was at the Romania Pro. But I do love his shape. I do love his size and symmetry. He's got incredible legs. He's got a great physique when he is on point. That's why I've got him in 3rd place, because if he does show up in shape, I think his shape I think his shape will give him 3rd place over Andrea Presti. Andrea Presti, mass monster, has incredible physique. Just gigantic human beings. Got to show up in shape. Got to be in condition. But I think even in his best shape, I still think his best shape versus Horse MD's best shape versus Chris and Martin's best shape, I still have Andrea Presti finishing in 4th. And I've got Sean Clarita in 5th. Just because, again, I don't think Sean Clarita can hang with these guys. I don't think he's going to be a top 3 open men's bodybuilder, ever. I think he's got a long, long way to go. There have been a lot of guys from that division come up. Obviously, Derek, obviously, Hadi. You've seen some other people that have come up and done very, very well. Obviously, they've won Mr. Olympia. But I don't think Sean Clarita is that guy. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to be solidly in 5th. And the 4 ahead of him, those places could change. Andrea could beat Horse MD. Horse MD could beat Chris Bumstead. But in my heart of hearts, my official prediction, if they all show up in their best shape, Martin Fitzwater is going to win. Chris Bumstead is going to be 2nd. Horse MD is going to be 3rd. Andrea Presti is going to be 4th. And Sean Clarita is going to be 5th. That's if and only if they show up in their best shape. If they don't show up in their best shape, Well, like every bodybuilding show, this is a coin toss. It could be very, very interesting. I think this is why so many people are interested in watching the Prague Pro. It is completely sold out. You can only watch it online at this point, and I think the main reason is people want to see how Chris Bumstead does against these open men's bodybuilders. This is going to be telling. This could change the future of open men's bodybuilding. We shall see. Great show coming up. I hope you're watching the Prague Pro November 16th and 17th. If you haven't downloaded your stream, go do that. That's it. That's all, folks. Coach Jason Capson signing out.